You must be smarter than the equipment you are intending to handle. It would help if I unmuted myself, wouldn't it? Welcome, all you beautiful people out there, to my channel. Got a doozy of a comment of the week for you. So I am actually foregoing today in history. If you're wondering, I had a wonderful time with my brother and niece. So anyway, let's get straight to comment of the week. And today's comment of the week comes from Calvinism, a despicable doctrine. And comes from Lawrence Stanley. I assume that's a dude, but I'm going to go with they. Okay, so they say at 5:40, no ma'am. First of all, don't call me ma'am. I'm not my mother. Second of all, this is not an address of respect. It depends on inflection, like a lot of things do. This is quite common in the southern United States. In this way, no ma'am is a derogatory term, just so you know. Alrighty, with that out of the way, Jesus did not die for everyone. That is not what John 3:16 is teaching. Okay, I've got to say this before I forget. Don't you people know that makes your God much, much, much more of a douchebag than he already seems to us? That makes your God a fucking asshole. All right, moving on. One of the most memorized verses in all the Bible is often misrepresented by many people to teach that the possibility of salvation is shared among the entire world. That anyone on earth can be saved if only they utilize their quote-unquote free will to believe. Now, free will is in quotes, and I will hand it to them. I don't believe in free will. And since free will is in quotes, I assume that he agrees with me that free will does not exist. Now, that's an assumption, but because free will is in quotes, it's a reasonable assumption. Moving on, this idea comes from an overemphasis of the word whoever, also in quotes, but without a correct understanding of who the whoever is referring to. These are their words. This is their words, not mine. So the grammatical incorrectness is theirs. Just so you know. While this verse does not specifically teach particular redemption, limited atonement, it is certainly not contradictory to it, and by no means does it teach that the atonement is available to everyone on earth, nor does it teach free will. Couple of things. You are reading into the verse things that are not there. Read the fucking verse the way it is on the page. It's not that hard. And I agree, it does not teach free will because there's no such thing as free will. In fact, if you look at the passage, free will is nowhere in the passage. Moving on with the comment, the passage begins with, "For God so loved the world, ... So our first question is over who it is that Jesus is talking about when he says the world. Fortunately, we do not have to guess about this since it is defined for us in the very same verse. In English, the second part of the verse is rendered that whoever believes in him. In the Greek, this passage reads, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, which literally means all the believing ones. I do not read Greek. So to comment on this would be overstepping my bounds, which, contrary to a lot of Christians, I am not going to do. Okay, moving on. Which literally means all the believing ones. I have no idea, but okay, let's just go with that. Again, do you not see how this makes your God a fucking douchebag? In context, this passage is saying that there is a specificity to faith, that there are a certain people who believe and there are a certain people who do not believe, and that those who believe in the Son, which is the world whom God loves, I have to disagree with you on that one. Again, I am not a Greek scholar by any stretch of the imagination. I have to rely on translations, but every fucking translation I have ever read renders it this way. Moving on. The same receive salvation, and consequently, those who do not believe in the Son receive condemnation. Again, this makes your God a fucking douchebag. I don't know how much simpler I can make this for you. This is perfectly consistent with God's electing grace, and there is nothing in the text that would lead one to think that Jesus is saying, and it is all up to your free will to determine which one of those two you are. Well, I would have to agree because free will is not in the fucking verse. Moving on. Just as an illustration to try to understand the text better, let's apply this passage to a large church, and we'll change the language just a bit. Now, in any church, especially a large one, it is safe to assume that there are unbelievers in the congregation. No shit. Maybe a rebellious teenager. Look, being a rebellious teenager does not preclude them from being does not preclude them from being a believer. You fucking idiot. Or a wife who is dragged to church by her husband. We agree on that one. Or maybe a husband who is a member on the books, but who would much rather be at home watching the ball game. Again, why fucking go? Moving on. So then Jesus enters the scene and declares, "For God so loved the church." Okay. Why are you putting church there instead of world? That's not what the verse says. Okay, that's not what the verse says. And again, I'm relying on translations, but that's what every single translation says. For God so loved the world. All right. So anyway, let's get to his fucking translation. For God so loved the church that he gave his only begotten Son, so that all the believing ones shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And that's it, folks. That is rewriting the Bible in one fell swoop. You see, these people don't care about their fucking book. They never have, and they never will. Getting back to the comment here, it is easy to see that what is meant by the church are all the believing ones who reside in the church. So whoever believes in the Son, whoever that may be, is a part of the world whom God loves and to whom the Son is given, and all the ones being saved. The passage has nothing to do with the idea of who can believe. Again, this makes your God even more of a fucking douchebag than he already was. Going on, and this is the last paragraph of their comment. The common misreading of the text in overemphasizing the word whoever is as if that means that every human being on earth actually has the ability to believe, as if there is no sovereign decree of election. It is a massive overreach and is certainly not supported by the text. Yeah, that is kind of supported by the text, you dumbass. John 3:16 limits the atonement to the world of all the believing ones from both Jews and Gentiles. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think so. Hi, Marianne. Hey, Beej. However, I will say you are the first Christian that I have come across that is so confident in their dumbassery as to come out and fucking say what you fucking think about fucking unbelievers. And again, that just makes your God much, much, much more of a fucking douchebag than we already know that he is. What about this don't you understand? Hey, Limited Light. Apparently so, Beej. Apparently so. So, and that's another thing to bring up. If God deserted his favorite people, the Jews, if God deserted his favorite people in favor of the quote unquote church, what makes these fucking idiots think that he's not going to abandon them at some point in the future? Like, oh, you guys pissed me off too much, so fuck you. I'm just going to go with another people. Oh, thanks, Nevermore. But I mean, really, am I the only one seeing what a fucking douchebag this doctrine makes God seem like? Am I the only one? Unfortunately, these people are so brainwashed, and hey, I used to be one of them. No judgment here. Okay, I used to be one of them too. Um, these people are so brainwashed, they cannot see this. They cannot see what a fucking douchebag their faith makes their God. Take the blinders off, people. All right, on to dun, 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 the topic of the day, which is ripping a new asshole for the Bible. Alrighty. We are in Judges 12. This is true, Beach. This is very true. And actually, I'm hoping to have some Muslims on. I don't know much about Islam, so maybe they can clear up a few things about Islam for us, me included, because, like I said, I don't know much about Islam. I did get a Quran, but I want to soak in all that Qurani goodness, so I'm going through it little by little. I know, right? Limited light. All right. So, getting on to ripping the Bible a new asshole. Which, by the way, I think it needs more assholes than it already has. Just saying. All right. So, what assholes are we covering today? Samson. We're covering Samson. He's a big asshole, isn't he? Anyway, getting on with chapter 12. The Ephraimite forces were called out, and they crossed over to Zaphon. They said to Jephthah, "Why did you go to fight the Ammonites without calling us to go with you? We're going to burn down your house over your head." Wow. Great brotherly love there, Ephraimites. Great brotherly love there. By the way, I don't really think Jephthah was an Israelite to begin with. But anyway, moving on. Jephthah answered, "I and my people were engaged in a great struggle with the Ammonites, and although I called you, you didn't save me out of their hands." Oh, cool. So we're playing the blame game. Cool. Hey, they're just taking a game page from their God's playbook. That's all I'm saying. "When I saw that you wouldn't help, I took my life in my hands and crossed over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave me the victory over them. Now why have you come up today to fight me?" Jephthah then called together the men of Gilead and fought against Ephraim. For what? These people just love war, don't they? This book is definitely not for children, people. Definitely not for children. The Gileadites struck them down because the Ephraimites had said, "You Gileadites are renegades from Ephraim and Manasseh." The Gileadites captured the fords of Jordan leading to Ephraim, and whenever a survivor of Ephraim said, "Let me cross over," the men of Gilead asked him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" If he replied no, they said, "All right, say Shibboleth." If he said Shibboleth, because if he said Sibboleth, because he could not pronounce the word correctly, they seized him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. 42,000 Ephraimites were killed at that time. Great brotherly love. Love it. Great brotherly love, people. Great brotherly love. I know, right? Nevermore. Yep, Beach. Same exact Jephthah. Jephthah led Israel 6 years. Then Jephthah the Gileadite died and was buried in a town in Gilead. So now we don't have to deal with that motherfucker anymore. After him, Ibzan of Bethlehem led Israel. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He gave his daughters away in marriage to those outside his clan, and for his sons he brought in 30 young women as wives from outside his clan. Ibzan led Israel 7 years. Then Ibzan died and was buried in Bethlehem. Um, did shouldn't God have a problem with people marrying outside of their fucking clans? I seem to remember that somewhere. Anyway, moving on. After him, Elon the Zebulunite led Israel 10 years. Then Elon died and was buried in Ajalon in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon, son of Hillel from Pirathon, led Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys. And this is important to the story. Why? He led Israel 8 years. Then Abdon, son of Hillel, died and was buried at Pirathon in Ephraim in the hill country of the Amalekites. Wait a minute. I thought the Israelites hated the Ephraimites because they didn't come when Jephthah called them. You know what? We already know God has Alzheimer's, so let's just go on. This is hurting my brain, people. Okay, chapter 13. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. A certain man of Zorah named Manoah from the clan of the Danites had a wife who was childless, unable to give birth. Well, that tells us how much women were valued in this time. Had a wife. Can't even bother to give us her name, can you, God? Verse 3, the angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, you are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. This sounds an awfully lot like Elizabeth from the New Testament, doesn't it? Just an observation. Like, maybe the New Testament doesn't have anything new to add, so they steal shit from the Old Testament. Just an observation. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have a son, whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazarite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Verse 6, then the woman went to her husband and told him, a man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God. Very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. Really? Come on, people. I know you're anti-woman, but come on, don't portray women like these stupid-ass people. But he said to me, you will become pregnant and have a son. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazarite of God from the womb until the day of his death. Hey, asexual. By the way, just getting off topic for a minute. in the New Testament, when it said the boy will be called a Nazarene, a lot of people think that Nazarene is actually a mistranslation of the word Nazarite. So the way they convolute the story to make Jesus come from Nazareth isn't even needed, if that is indeed the case. Nevermore, you know babies are delivered by storks. Come on now, everybody knows that. Verse 8, then Manoah prayed to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to let the man of God you sent come to us again to teach us how to bring up the boy who is to be born. Wait a minute, didn't the law of Moses tell you how to bring up the boy? Come on. That's just plain dumb. Let's see. Verse 9, God heard Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field, but her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman hurried to tell her husband, he's here, the man who appeared to me the other day. Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said, are you the man who talked to my wife? I am, he said. So Manoah asked him, when your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work? Wow, Manoah. Like, I thought Moses already went through this in the law of Moses. Hey, doorknob head. Angels fucking women. Isn't that why God brought the flood? Just saying. Alrighty, moving on. Verse 13. The angel of the Lord answered, your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, we would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you. Verse 16, the angel of the Lord replied, even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord. Manoah did not realize that it was the angel of the Lord. How can it? You know, I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even going to ask. Verse 17. Then Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, what is your name, so that we may honor you when your word comes true? He replied, why do you ask me my name? Because it's custom. You're supposed to be a fucking angel. Why don't you fucking know this? It is beyond understanding, talking about his name. His name is beyond understanding. Then Manoah took a young goat together with the grain offering and sacrificed it on a rock to the Lord. And the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell with their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized it was the angel of the Lord. Better late than never, I guess. "We are doomed to die," he said to his wife. "We've seen God." Wow. Can you be any more dramatic, Manoah? Exactly, asexual atheist. Exactly. Verse 23, but his wife answered, "If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and grain offering from our hands, nor shown us all these things, or now told us this." Okay, so I've got a question. This is supposedly after the law of Moses was given, meaning this was after um, the Levites were told, "Hey, you're the only ones allowed to give any fucking burnt offerings." So why the fuck is God offering, accepting an offering from a non-Levite? What the fuck? I know, right? Asexual. What the poor goat do? So anyway, verse 24, the woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Mahanadan, between Zorah and Ashtal. Um, Forgive me for not knowing, but isn't Zorah the name of a hero? Oh, wait a minute, that's Sorrow. My bad. Okay, chapter 14. And we're moving right along because we only got to 16 to go. Yay! Hey, we might, if I don't have to point out any of the obvious gaping holes in the rest of the story, maybe we can actually go under an hour this time. Who knows? Chapter 14. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife." His father and mother replied, "Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife?" Yeah, not much racism there, God. You know, I've been watching Logic's Hello, I'm a Scientist. I love Logic, by the way. And this dodo head, his name's John Morris Pendleton, said that in God's eyes there's only one race. Well, apparently not. Um, the clean Israelites and the unclean fucking Philistines. Come on, dude. It's right there in the fucking book. Read your own book for fucking once in your fucking life. But Samson said to his father, "Get her for me." She's the right one for me. His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. Oh, so this God, this loving God, who apparently doesn't hold any grudges, holds grudges. Huh, that's interesting. Wait a minute, we already knew that. Verse 5. Samson went down to Timnah together with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. What the fucking lion do? I mean, come on. Okay, all right. I know, I know a fucking lion can tear a fucking human apart, okay? And that lion probably did mean to eat you. By the way, it it's lionesses, you fucking morons who wrote the Bible, not lions who usually hunt. You fucking idiots. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. So wait a minute, if his mom and dad were there with him, how didn't they know that he tore apart a lion? Verse 8. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass, and in it he saw a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate some as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they too ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from a lion's carcass. Now that is just gross. I mean, even back then, you would think people would have the good sense not to stick their hand in a gross fucking lion's carcass. Hey, Bar. Now his father went down to see the woman. Oh, wow. Are we going to have a threesome here? And there Samson held a feast, as was customary for young men. When the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his companions. Let me tell you a riddle, Samson said to them. If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you can't tell me the answer, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. Tell us your riddle, they said. Let us hear it. Well, I thought God had a thing about pride. Verse 14, he replied, out of the eater, something to eat, out of the strong, something sweet. For 3 days they could not give the answer. On the 4th day they said to Samson's wife, coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to steal our property? Um, uh, 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 okay. So what, Samson's going to, give her the answer to the riddle in his afterglow? Is that the plan? Well, of course not, Marianne. Then it wouldn't be the Bible now, would it? Then Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing, "You hate me! You don't really love me! You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer!" "I haven't even explained it to my father or mother," he replied. "So why should I explain it to you?" "Okay, fair enough." She cried the whole 7 days of the feast. So on the seventh day, he finally told her because she continued to press him. She in turn explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset on the seventh day, the men of the town said to him, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." Oh, Jesus fuck. Samson, why didn't you just come out and say, "You know what? I think you fucked my wife. So why don't you just come out and say you fucked my wife so you could get the answer to my riddle?" Then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of everything, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he returned to his father's home, and Samson's wife, who was given to one of his companions who had attended him at the feast. So for no good reason, God decides, you know what? Samson made this stupid bet with the Philistines. And, I got my honor to uphold because, I haven't fucking ever done anything to dishonor myself in the past. So I got my fucking honor to uphold. And so I've got to give Samson the strength to tear apart 30 men who did absolutely nothing to anybody. What the fuck? Chapter 15. Later on, at the time of wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. He said, "I'm going to my wife's room." But her father would not let him go in. Well, gee, I wonder why. Like, maybe because you ditched her? I know, right, Nevermore? So fucking funny. I mean, all you have to do is read this book and it makes no fucking goddamn sense. But whatever, the Christians don't read their own books, so, that's why I'm reading it. For any of you fucking Christians out there who want to say, "Oh, God's all love and blah, 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 blah," and fucking give me a break. Verse 2, "I was so sure you hated her," he said, "that I gave her to your companion. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead." So, wait a minute. I thought Samson gave his wife to his companion. Whatever. Like I said, we all know God suffers from Alzheimer's, so, you know, whatever. Verse 3, Samson said to them, "This time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them." Uh, why, Samson? Just because they figured out your silly riddle? What makes you think that even if they hadn't fucked your wife, they wouldn't have come solved the riddle? It's not a very hard riddle to solve, you asshole. Verse 4, so he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails, lit the torches, and let the foxes loose in the standing grains of the Philistines. All right. I've had about enough of this fucking God. If you want to burn the grain, burn the fucking grain. Don't abuse the poor animals. Does this sound like a kid's story to you? He burned up the shots in standing grain together with the vineyards and olive groves. When the Philistines asked who did this, they were told, Samson, the Timnite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion. Well, no shit. So the Philistines went up. Hey, look, I don't blame her father either, okay? You fucking abused her. You fucking left her. So he gave her to another man. It's as simple as that. Get on with your fucking life. You obviously didn't love her. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. Wait, what? Why are you killing Samson's wife and her father? Samson's in the wrong here. You fucking idiots. If you don't see what's wrong with this book, and hell, I'm only in Judges. If you don't see what's wrong with this book, you've got to fucking screw loose. Verse 7, Samson said to them, since you've acted like this, I swear that I won't stop until I get my revenge on you. Samson, you weren't going to stop until you got their revenge on them anyway. So what does it fucking matter? Verse 8, he attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. You know, because that's a living God thing to do, you know. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Edom. Etam? I don't know. Verse 9. The Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. The people of Judah asked, why have you come to fight us? We have come to take Samson prisoner, they answered, to do to him as he did to us. All's fair in love and war, Samson. I mean, hell, if you think revenge is okay, why can't they have their revenge? And hell, they're even telling the Judahites, hey, If you give us fucking Samson, we won't fight you. Just give us Samson. Just give us Samson and we'll go away peacefully. We don't have any problem with you. We got a problem with Samson. Fine. Give him fucking Samson. Verse 11, then 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Etam and said to Samson, don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done to us? He answered, I merely did to them what they did to me. No, you didn't. You know what? If there are any Christians left in this fucking room right now, Samson is a fucking psychopath. By the way, so is your God. But we won't go there. But you admire a fucking psychopath. Not to mention you worship a fucking psychopath. I know, right? I take flowers. Well, not. I'm allergic to a lot of pollen, so fake flowers. I'll take fake flowers and chocolate. Hey, Satan's little helper. You missed all my F-bombs, boy. But don't worry, I'm sure there'll be more. They said to him, we've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. Samson said, swear to me that you won't kill me yourselves. Verse 13, agreed, they answered. We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you. So they bound him up. So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him, shouting. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, with a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. You know, Samson, I would not be bragging about being a fucking psychopath. Right, Nevermore? That's what I want to know. It seems like revenge is okay. That seems to be the point of the story. Hey, Cryptomania. When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was called Ramath Lehi. Because he was very thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, you have given your servant this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? What uncircumcised? Samson, you fucking idiot, you killed them all. Verse 19, then God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned, and he revived. So the spring was called En Hakor, and it is still there in Lehi. Well, thanks for telling us exactly where the fucking spring is so we can go see for ourselves that it is still there, you fucking idiots. Verse 20, Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. Chapter 16. Thank goodness, because I am fucking tired of reading this shit. Oh, thank you, Cryptomaria. Thank you. But I can't take credit. It's hilarious all on its own. Chapter 16. One day, Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. Aren't there not supposed to be any prostitutes in Israel? I thought that was another law of Moses. Huh. All right. Whatever. Thank you, Marianne. This is one of the dumbest fucking stories in all of the Bible. And if after this you think your God is a loving God, you have definitely got not just one screw loose, but a few screws loose. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, Samson is here. So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, at dawn we'll kill him. But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate, together with the two posts, and tore them loose, bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Okay, so I got a question. This Nazarite, right? He can't cut his hair. He can't drink strong drink. But he can sleep with prostitutes. God, will you make up your fucking mind? The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, see if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him so you may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued. Yeah, because that always works. Samson answered her, if anyone ties me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man. Then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. With men hidden in the room, she called to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. But he snapped the bowstrings as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to a flame. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. Then Delilah said to Samson, you have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you can be tied. Seriously, do that? How stupid are these fucking people? Verse 11, he said, if anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man. So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them. Then, with men hidden in the room, she called to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. But he snapped the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. Delilah then said to Samson, "All this time you have been making a fool of me and lying to me." "Well, no shit, lady." "Tell me how you can be tied." He replied, "If you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become as weak as any other man." So while he was sleeping, Delilah took the 7 braids of his head, wove them into the fabric, and tightened it with the pin. Come again? Does this woman give like really good blowjobs or something? Again, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke from his sleep and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. Then she said to him, "How can you say, 'I love you,' when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me, and you haven't told me the secret of your great strength." With such nagging. Oh, so now she's nagging. Well, are we really surprised? Because this is the fucking Bible. Verse 16, with such great nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to death of it. You know, Samson, you can just leave. Or maybe she does do terrifically fucking great blowjobs. Really? Such great blowjobs that you're willing to risk your life for her? Seriously? Verse 17. So he told her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he said, "because I have been a Nazarite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." And there you have it, folks. Don't cut your fucking hair, because God doesn't like it when you cut your fucking hair. Verse 18. When Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the rulers of the Philistines, "Come back once more. He has told me everything." So the rulers of the Philistines returned with the silver in their hands. After putting him to sleep on her lap, must be some afterglow, Samson. She called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Then she called, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke from his sleep and thought, "I'll go out as before and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him. And there you go, folks. It's as simple as that. You know, I mean, if you wanted to defeat John Cena, just shave his head. Then, verse 21, then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza. Binding him with bronze shackles, they set him to grinding grain in the prison. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Verse 23, now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to celebrate, saying, our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands. When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste our land and multiplied our slain. Which, I mean, yeah, I mean, like during I've had, let's go back to that comment, right? Okay, so now the Christians are like, God doesn't like long hair on men. Why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? He liked it on the Nazarites. Like, duh. Seriously, read your fucking book. Verse 25. While they were in high spirits, they shouted, bring out Samson to entertain us. So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. When they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple so that I may lean against them. Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there, and on the roof were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more and let me, with one blow, get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Samson, you fucking moron. You're the one that started this fucking mess to begin with. That was me joking about Delilah, Methy. Verse 29. Then Samson reached toward the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood, bracing himself against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more people when he died than while he lived. Then his brothers and his father's whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah his father. He had led Israel 20 years. That is some R-rated shit. You know what? This whole fucking Bible needs to be rated R. Whole fucking Bible needs to be rated R. You know what? I haven't read 50 Shades of Grey yet. I know, shocker, right? I have it. I just haven't read it yet. But I will bet you anything. I will bet you anything. Hey, Otangelo, that 50 Shades of Grey is more G-rated than the fucking Bible. Where do you want to bet? And I've heard that 50 Shades of Grey is some really fucked up shit. But hey, you got fucked up shit in the Bible. So what's, fucked up shit plus fucked up shit? More fucked up shit, right? Oh my fucking God. Otangelo, if you worship the God of the Bible, which you do, you definitely have a screw loose. You definitely have a screw loose. I mean, how many fucking idiotic stories have we read thus far? And we're just in Judges. I've only gotten up to Judges 16. There is still far more fucked up stories in this fucking book than you can even imagine. Even more fucked up stories. I can't even tell you how many fucked up stories I've covered because I've lost count. Anyway, thanks for coming, guys. I think Girth Streams is still live. So if you want to go over there, if you want more live shit and some more F bombs, because I'm definitely going to be over there if he's still streaming, if he's still streaming, and which I think he is, and anyway, subscribe if you haven't already, and join if you want to join. I do have a 99-cent tier now, and I will see you tomorrow for Atheist Church. Bye.